All right, guys, time for pre-cals. What's going on this week?
We have a great guest with us, Andrea Ramberg with EnsoData,
right.
and the BRPT is going to be joining us today. I think we're going to have a really rich conversation with her. So much that she's done over the last few years. It'll be exciting to hear how it goes.
You know, she appeared on Sleep Review magazine on the cover. I want to ask her how to get on the cover of the thing. I think I got the look for that.
Well, we did have Three Roy on our podcast. I mean, you gotta talk to her.
Yeah, good.
I mean, you actually need to do something to be worthy of the cover. I mean, there is that.
Well, that I guess that disqualifies me right away. So that's.
Oh my God!
What are you thinking, Robert? Hey, today's show?
I love Andrea. I think that she's been great for the field the last few years. She certainly has brought a lot of energy and exposure to the industry. And I'm happy to say that I had the opportunity to work with her for a short period at a sleep company that we worked at together. And really, it was. I swear to you, the day that I called her to just see if she would have any interest in working with us, I absolutely expected her to say no. And she surprised me when she said yes. But then when she interviewed, she was so good that I knew that she was going to be a rock star, and she turned out to be one for sure.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's exciting. So I guess let's get ready for the show.
Sounds good.
Lights out.
Welcome, everyone, once again to another fantastic, fabulous, and friendly episode of SleepTech Talk, the Sleep Podcast. Happy New Year to you all, and welcome back to another year, another season of SleepTech Talk with your hosts and friends, Robert Miller, Emerson Kerr, and me, Dr. Gerald George Moneycarot. We're just so glad to be back. Here, not at work, but hey, we're glad to be back at work also. We were just talking about it that the day that everybody went back to work after New Year's, it was the International Day of Fake Smiling. But how about, Emerson, you tell us a little bit about what's going on?
That is a great idea, Jerry. I really appreciate that. Always thought-provoking. So we're really lucky today to have Andrea Ramberg with us. A little bit about her before we get started. Andrea spent over a decade learning every component of polysomnography, from clinical to administrative. She is double credentialed with her RPSGT and CCSH and holds a Master of Science in Industrial and Organizational Psychology. She piloted and spearheaded an inpatient sleep screening program that was featured in the 2018 August-September issue of Sleep Review magazine, and went on to consult with hospitals nationwide, helping them start their own programs. Andrea is the clinical director for EnsoData, helping to bring sleep into the future with artificial intelligence. She also serves as the president of the BRPT, where her passion is advocating for new evolving roles for sleep technologists. Well, Andrea, welcome to the show. We're so happy you're with us today. One of the things, if you've listened to our podcast, we love to ask, how did you get here? And we know you have a great story. So if you can, tell us how you got into sleep.
Yeah, that's always one of my favorite questions to ask techs. And when I talk to the industry side of things or people who aren't in sleep medicine, I was like, it's a funny story to tell people of like, just wait. And the stories that people come up with are great. But mine, ironically, I was in the finance and banking industry. So I was doing investments, loans, all that good stuff. And I had a close friend who worked in the sleep industry, and I had my bachelor's in psychology, or I was getting my bachelor's in psychology, and psychology and sleep to me are really integrated. And so the more she talked about her job and all that, I found it super interesting. And she goes, well, you can come shadow. And that's funny because I don't think sleep labs these days would allow you to do that, but not with HIPAA, right? I look back, I was like, that might not have been the best, but I was able, so I worked all day at the bank, and then I worked all night with her, and then I worked the next morning at the bank. And I remember walking into the bank that next morning feeling just completely different, because it was just so cool to see the difference in what you can make in a patient's life. And I'll never forget the first REM cycle that I saw, and she called it, see the kissing fishes. And she goes, see how it's like, looks like fish that kiss. And it just, and I'm still like best friends with her too. She's the best, but, 15 years later, I'm still here. I was able to get into the sleep medicine field with on-the-job training. So I had no background in any kind of health at all. But I was lucky to have really good mentors and really good teachers who sat with us at night, who sat with us the morning after our studies, who would pull us to days to help us train and educate and all that to make sure that we knew what we were doing. So yeah, I was really lucky to have that opportunity, because I know for techs now it's really hard to get into the field. But yeah, so I just kind of stumbled in from the finance background, and here I am.
That's really cool. I think it's a lot of us are like that. But if you could tell us a little bit more about how you eventually ended up to where you are today in both from BRPT side and on the other side from with.
You mean so famous, Andrea? How did you become so famous in sleep medicine?
No. I don't know. That is the question. I really don't know the answer to that question at all. It was somebody that was super passionate about what I'm doing. I mean, I'm a wee bit of an overachiever, just a wee bit. But I like to be involved, and I like to create change, and I like to help people see possibilities that they weren't even aware that was possible. So part of it was I just always hungered for more. I actually I did things a little backwards. I did not go to college right after I graduated high school. I worked full time. I've always worked full time in college. So I would do my studies at night. The hospital that I worked for gave money every year towards college. And it's like, well, I might as well use that money. It took me, maybe like 8 years to get my bachelor's, because I would just chip away at whatever they would give me. And slowly but surely I did it. I just kept coming back. I would take semesters off and then just kept coming back to it. But during that time too, I was given some really great opportunities to volunteer. And with my volunteer work, I met people that were outside of my realm of what I knew from my small town. And I think that really helped open my eyes to what was out there and what could be. And through them, they helped push me even more to where I'm at today.
So Andrea, speaking of that, we met quite a long time ago, and that was part of the reason we met is you had a really innovative inpatient screening program, and it caught my attention, and we certainly worked on some interesting projects through the AST. But how did that program come about? Because it was really, when we met, it was the most innovative and effective program in the country. And, you were able to build that out. What was special about that program? And that certainly paved the way for the future, but what was really stood out with that program that made it so effective for you?
Yeah, I think having a sleep clinician do it versus any other type of health, medical allied health professional was huge, because I had a lot of the background of taking a patient from beginning to end in their care plan in a way that I was better able to navigate than anybody else. They didn't know. They could identify maybe a patient that would be at risk for sleep apnea, but they didn't understand the troubleshooting or the process or the insurance dynamics around it, or how to get that patient across the doorway into that lab, right? And another thing that made it unique was the fact that the inpatient world operates very differently than the outpatient world. What they need, the metrics, what they're measured on, everything, the financial incentives. Understanding how to connect that bridge was important, because what that patient, what an untreated sleep apnea patient means to an inpatient physician is something completely different than what it means to a sleep physician in the outpatient realm. And so it helped to connect those two. And with that, insurance requirements had certain things of like face-to-face, stuff like that. So part of what we were able to implement is screening of 100% of all patients with that, with the upon admission. So that was something that the nurses did upon admission. And then also we implemented a face-to-face document that produced all the requirements of the insurance. So it helped ask all the sleep questions. And then as an addendum, that physical consult that physician did with that patient that I can't do. That's outside of my scope of practice. So together we were able to put those, together and utilize that to be able to get the patients in the right, care plan.
That's where she earned the title of Dr. Ramberg, by the way, through that training program.
Yeah, no, my kids think I'm a doctor. So
my question for you today.
I've played one in a Bollywood movie, but that's different.
You did. I saw that movie in 1984.
I was too. No.
So Andrea, a question for you. You're on podcasts all the time. I know that we've seen you on all the other shows that are out there. And what's a topic that you haven't gotten to discuss on those other podcasts that you might want to talk about today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I see there's a lot of evolution in the sleep tech roles, and I do, frame that, and I do talk about that, but I think it's not talked about enough, and I don't think it falls upon enough ears to listen to that. I think there's a lot of definitions of what we think a sleep tech should be. And I think that our society and I think our field in general really wants to put us in this little box of where we need to be. But while everything else in technology and everything else in innovation and stuff is going outside the box to solve these problems that we can't seem to solve because we're staying in our little boxes. So part of what my role with EnsoData is as the clinical director is to really help facilitate that knowledge base and to help people understand that you can be the solution to the problems that the sleep medicine field is seeing right now. It's just a matter of applying your own intellect to those problems and not taking no for an answer. I mean, Robert, you told me that. You were so rough on me at first with that first, but he goes, you're going to thank me later. And it's the truth. I mean, you really have to, just because somebody else doesn't see your vision, doesn't mean that it's not viable, doesn't mean that it's not worth it. And over, I hear techs talk about how frustrated or how discouraged they are with sleep medicine right now and how overworked and all of it. And I think we need to find ways. They know what we need to do. The techs know what we need to do. I think it's just a matter of having that right skill set to put it into motion.
I think the one of the greatest challenges right now is just the lack of new people entering the field. I think if we, as a society and as a group of clinical people, we've got to figure out a way to recruit new people into the field, but then give them some assurances, even with all of the technology changes that are out there on the horizon and things that are going on in the field that seem to be future disruptors, even to give them some peace that there's still a place for them in this new world as technology continues to change our field. Has that been part of some of the discussions that you've been a part of with the BRPT and even some of the ASM conversations that you've had?
Yeah, definitely. Part of the, these last couple of years, I feel like we are much stronger together. And with this new wave of younger leadership too, I feel like we've been able to facilitate some of the conversations in a way that just for some reason we're stuck before, maybe with old conversations, whatever. But I feel like now we've been able to work together to be stronger together and to understand one of the initiatives that is on my docket for 2023. I don't know if I should speak this out loud because then maybe I actually have to complete it. But I want to help define what sleep coach means, what sleep navigator means, what sleep educator means. when you go to different areas, everybody uses slightly different title for the job description. So part of what, with the help of the AST and the ASM and the Behavioral Medicine Sleep Society is to really help define those best practices for each, define the job titles, and define the scope of practice with it. Is that something that a CCSH credential can facilitate? Is it something that maybe we need to look at elevating this credential? Does it cover everything we need it to cover in order for a person to do this job? Looking at insurance requirements with what insurance wants to see with, an allied medical health professional in order to bill for that. That is something that is at the top of my list, because I know the technologists that I work with that have this credential are so good at what they do, really, truly. I'm currently, I'll kind of be vulnerable a little bit. I'm currently in my first week of CPAP therapy, and it's not my physician that I'm going to. It's a sleep educator that I'm going to who really takes the time with me. And I'm in the sleep field, guys. Like, I should know what I'm doing with it. But sometimes when you're so close to the problem, but my sleep educator that I'm going to, she's suggesting things that it's been, game changing with some of it. And I know that these sleep technologists in this field have such power that has not been untapped. So part of what I aim to do this year is to get them more recognition and to more definition of what that CCSH could mean for their careers.
So Andrea, that's really awesome that you're looking to create more recognition for them. But what would you suggest, or any words of advice to sleep techs, whether they're new or new coming into the field, or they are seasoned, they're looking to grow or develop themselves into, what's next for me kind of thing? Any words of advice for them?
Yeah, I think mentorship is huge in our field. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't have somebody that, was a little further along in their career path that could help me out. I think volunteering on committees with the AST, the BRPT, getting involved, going to conferences, networking. For me, part of the reason why I'm at where I am is because of networking, is because I put myself out there, met new people, volunteered, learned new things within the field. If you stay within your small world, all you're ever going to know are those things that occur in that small world. It's really important. Sleep in my lab, I found, was way different than sleep in a lab a couple of states away. And it helped make it better. Like, what can you learn from that program to make yours better? Or what can you teach somebody else? So for a new tech, I would 1000% recommend joining your society, joining the AST for education, and then also volunteering on the committees. We need so much help with everything that all of our initiatives that we do.
That seems to be a bad word these days, volunteering. And here it's so often, so many guests have said that. Yet you're right. There's always a need for volunteers at the various societies, whether it's state or national. Yet we don't see people step up. Any thoughts or anything to say?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it could be seen as extra. I don't have time. And trust me, I am a busy mom. I've got 2 little ones, and they always said that when they're little, treasure it, because it gets busier as they get older. And it's the truth, because you're taking them all over. Anyways. But for me, it helps facilitate. I think when things align within your career, even if you can give an hour a week, for me, it makes me better within my career. And I'm lucky enough to work for a company that 1000% sees that. They see that I'm better at my job because of all the information that I've gathered with volunteerism. And I am who I am today because of it. It's super fulfilling. We all think that we don't have time. Fun little thing, your phone often tracks how often you spend on social media or different things. Maybe track some of that and then take away an hour, and you might be surprised with some of the time that you can facilitate. It really isn't as much as what people think, though.
So Andrea, speaking of your job, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing at EnsoData, and give us a snapshot of how that works in you're like us, you're a sleep tech. How in the world did you get there, I guess, is part of the question. But then what's new there? What are you working on? What can people look forward to from EnsoData?
Yeah, I love being surrounded by super intelligent people. I've often said that if I'm in the room and I'm the smartest in the room, then I'm in the wrong room. I'm in the right room with them because they blow me away with, I often just like think out loud of the problems of sleep. Like I just say, oh, well, this would be great, or that would be great. And the engineers will be like, well, we could do that, or we can create that, or, well, what would we need to do? And it's just super cool, the things that we have coming down the pipeline, which I'm sure you all will find out in the coming months, but that'll just completely change a lot of how we do things in a very good way. But I ended up at EnsoData because of the curiosity and the interest of what the founders had within our sleep field. They would come to these sleep conferences and actually sit in to the lectures. They would ask us questions. It wasn't just to sell us anything. It was, they were genuinely interested in making sleep medicine better and spreading healthcare and helping individuals get treated faster. And that to me always stuck. So I stayed friends with these guys. We would see each other at conferences and stuff. And then when they were bringing on a clinical team finally to their, to the company, they were like, we couldn't think of anybody better than you with everything that you're doing and changing. And then my role has evolved of what the company has needed along the way. And part of what I do now is I help work with executives and all this stuff to make sure they are seeing their ROI, to make sure that they're capitalizing on everything that we have to offer within that. I help them start programs. I help them say, hey, have you thought about shifting this, moving this, and this would, increase your ROI by such and such. It's one of my favorite parts about my jobs because I get to work with techs to help build their careers too, to help them evolve and change.
So in November of last year, there was the first interface, AI interface was released to the public. I'm sure everybody's talking about it now, ChatGPT. And so AI is a big thing that everybody's talking about the world over. But you guys have been in that industry for a while now. Anything you can talk about in terms of AI that you could share with the listeners?
Yeah, the main thing to always remember with AI, which by the way, when I first came onto the team, I was like, the only thing I know about AI are like the robots and stuff like that. So it was really helpful. They were really patient with helping to explain what it is and how it can help facilitate things. But the most important thing to remember with AI, it will never replace human beings ever. Like they've done the studies, they've tried teaching AI robots empathy and it just gets it wrong, right? The more data that we input in there though, the stronger it is and the more likelihood that it can create the change that we need. And some of it is just trying to solve the problems and working smarter, not harder. So it's taking a look at what we need in healthcare of, we're collecting all this data for sleep studies, right? We're not doing anything with it. We're doing a fraction of what we could be doing with all the data within it. The research that my team is doing within this realm is just crazy what they could do. I have colleagues that did the brain age, right? They could predict your brain age depending on what they've collected with that. Think about all the useful stuff that we could do and put in the hands of clinicians to better facilitate that care plan, to better take care of that patient instead of a guesswork. What else can we put in there to better lead them to the proper care plan?
Hey, can I tell one funny story about Andrea before we close this podcast? So Andrea and I had to work at an AASM conference together, and we're working a booth. And I don't know if you knew about it, Andrea, but Andrea shows up and there is a life-size cardboard cutout thing of Andrea at our booth. Because
embarrassing.
She had just been in Sleep Review magazine. So she got to go home with this giant
yeah. It's framed in my living room right now. It's hanging on the wall. No, just kidding.
Oh, perfect.
No, it's actually, I pictured it. I did throw it out and I picture it in my head just floating in the garbage truck going somewhere. You know how the little, like, what are they called? The stick figures that you take traveling with you? I want to know where the Andrea cover is now.
Yeah.
Maybe I've gone to some really cool places. I don't know.
That would have been cool though. You could have put it in place when your kids get tired of you. You can say, here, talk to the
right.
talk to the stand.
I've always wanted to clone myself. Maybe I missed my opportunity.
Yeah, you know, you could have called it Standria.
And put like a recorded, you know, of all the basic like responses that I give my kids. No, you cannot have more candy. It's almost bedtime.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, talking about almost bedtime, it is time for us, and we got to close. So before we close, do you have anything else you want to just share with the audience really quickly that we couldn't touch upon?
Yeah, you know, I just think what you all are doing for the SleepTech community is great. I've heard such interest in, you know, the podcast, and I see you all gaining momentum. And I think that giving back to the community like you all do has been great. I really enjoy listening to your podcast, and I know it takes a lot of work in the background, and I really appreciate all the work that you all are doing.
Thank you. That's really kind, but I'm just the pretty face for the show. It's these two guys that are doing all the background.
Yeah.
Right. You guys owe me $20 each now for saying that.
Yeah.
But guys, Andrea, first off, thank you so much for joining us. We sincerely appreciate it. And it's an honor to have somebody like you on our show. And folks, remember, she was a cover model for Sleep Review magazine. So be sure to go check out that issue. And and talking about that sort of thing, we sincerely appreciate all of you joining our show, listening in on all the platforms. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and most importantly, don't forget to share it with your friends. And we can't thank you enough for all the support. Please keep doing it. And until next time, we say lights on. Okay, what a show, man. Let's sorry, post cows.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
She delivered everything we were hoping. I mean, what a career. What a lot of keen insights for our listeners on what they can do with their careers. Just she definitely delivered on what we hoped for today.
It was really interesting. Another example of somebody that was in some other industry and then got into sleep, and my gosh, become a titan in the industry. It's just amazing to see that. So really encouraging for all of us, I think, to be able to see such growth and something that we. Robert.
Hey, I don't know. Maybe she's underachieving still. I don't know. Give her some time. Give her some time. She's only been around for a little while, you know. No, I'm joking. She's fantastic, and you know, it's one of those things where you look at someone. I talk about sleep screening programs all the time, and she probably you know, was one of the original folks who helped to develop a significant program that contributed to the Sleep Center in a really profound way, as far as tangible sleep studies that were performed based on the work that she was doing inside the four walls of a hospital. You know, I just wish that there was a way to be able to take that work and just replicate it at every single hospital in the country, and we'd never have the worry about filling a bed for a sleep, you know, in a sleep center, or you know, and we probably couldn't make enough home sleep tests to service patients if
no question about that
proactive approach. So, you know, and my guess is I don't know, you know, sort of what their program looks like today, but you know, certainly without that driving heartbeat that she was for them, I would imagine that it's probably still a great program, but it's not the Andrea program that they had before.
No, and I think the other thing that stood out today is, you know, when she talked a little bit about, you know, the future of what we talk about a lot on here, and that's the CCSH role with coaching or navigating or whatever we're going to end up calling that. And even if we call it all of those things, I think their work on trying to define that is so important for the future, because right now it's a bit of a Wild West. Everyone's defining it on their own terms, which isn't a terrible thing, but I think the work that she's spearheading with that is critical for the future of that role.
You know, that's an interesting point, talking about the future, because that's a lot of people that we've had on the show have talked about that, and this is definitely part of it. What is the future of the industry? And it takes it more from just a very simple, or I shouldn't say simple, but just a very technical standpoint to something that's even more encompassing, where you have a lot more active role with the patients and as well as the hospital system as a whole. And I find that very interesting where we're going. And to your point, and Andrea's point, which is defining these various roles that are coming, that actually expands the industry even further. I know there were questions a few years ago in different sleep societies talking about, are there going to be enough jobs? Are there going to be more jobs? But it just sounds like there's more and more opportunities that are growing each and every day.
I agree. I'm just glad that there's a group of young people who are coming along to replace us old guys.
That's right.
Yeah, tell me about it. I think you're going to be first, Robert.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Oh man, but I thought you guys would be more impressed with, you were talking about Andrea being an overachiever. I try to do that. I read some extra words today, and I use words like emulate and tighten.
You did. I cried twice.
Okay. I appreciate that, man. You know, I saw that.
It could be allergies, though. I'm not sure.
Well, that sounds like it's probably more like it. A lot of people are allergic to me. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, great job.
Well, yeah, exciting. And well, folks, thank you so much once again for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and importantly, share it with all the other sleep techs that are out there. We can't thank you enough for the growth that we've been seeing, and it won't continue without you. And we can't keep bringing out more content without you. So thank you so much for that. Until the next show, we want to say thank you and cheers.